So in presence of oxygen, you cannot carry out that type of anaerobic digestion because there would be methanogenic bacteria. So it is acetate base cycle which generates methane. So he has got a lot of well there which is going to waste. So you need to give now ideas. That is what he is suggesting. How this voluminous spent wash in which there are suspended solids, in which there are dissolved solids, and in which there are sugars which cannot be utilized, and organic molecules which are fully biodegradable. You have to think of a consortium of useful microorganisms which will be able to carry out the necessary enzymatic reaction to convert all these solubles and insolubles into energy and biomass. Energy in one pathway you can generate bioelectricity through biomethanation pathway. And biomass, you can have single cell protein production after autoclaving this. You cannot just take the whole spent wash and put anything in there. It has to be autoclaved. It has to be steam sterilized or at least pasteurized. But I can still tell you that if you have a lot of paddy straw cheaply available in the area, you can solidify your spent wash after dewatering it. Dewatering is important. You can use solar dryer also for that, which are coming from Goa Energy Development Agency. So Goa Energy Development Agency will use solar dryer. So using solar dryer, you remove the moisture content of your spent wash, so it will be a cake. That cake you blend with chopped paddy straw, pasteurize it, and inoculate Pleurotus that is oyster mushroom spawn on that. So you will get efficient bioconversion, and you will, in a shade you can have rows and rows of oyster mushroom. It is being practiced in the Southeast Asia, this procedure. China, Thailand, all those countries are practicing all this type of bioconversion of spent wash in various types of their sake industries there in Japan and various rice and wine making so nothing goes to waste in this type of bio industries. Only what happens is when we do mass energy transfer reaction, because that budget we can't see easily. You have to give us some quantitative data and we can work out all these equations and we can give you mass audit and energy audit also.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And give you the number of liters available per season and number of weight kgs available in captive product. The fruit also, the pulp remains, no? That's also a huge quantity. We get only about 60-65% of juice from the apple. The remaining 35% is captive apple pulp, which again remains. But that is being used by kiln operators for firing their kilns. It doesn't go a waste, but in a sense it's a waste. But as doctor is saying, if you can come out with a viable solution and an economical solution, it's not just a question of viability alone. We are not government organizations. We believe in profits. We don't have profits, we cannot work. So that also has to be kept in mind by you people. That it has to be economically viable product.
One thing that you must have observed that 3,000 plus people are now living on this cashew distillation tradition. Number one. Number two, they have absolutely no knowledge of basic microbiology or fermentation biochemistry or anything that is involved in this. They have just learned it from their forefathers. That if you do A, you get B. If you do B, you get C. And if you get C, you get D, which you can sell and make profits. That is not about science and technology. You may like the product, but that is not going to create wealth for our country, neither sustainable employment. So what is required is standardization, mass education, technology transfer in rural areas, and giving them small technological packages, appropriate technological packages. In what way? You just say now where the scope exists for students with a little background of physiology and biochemistry. First and foremost, you look at primary fermentation process. You explain me the principle. We want to learn it from you. Again, what is the primary fermentation principle when they extract the juice and the fermentation has to take place. Now what happens during this fermentation and what are the causative microorganisms which are involved in this fermentation process, which leads to generation of alcohol, which gets trapped as a low molecular weight molecule and which has to be separated by the process of thermal separation called distillation, and then these volatiles, since the alcohol is low in molecular weight and low density, alcoholic vapors will be easily condensed using a condenser system, and then you can fractionate it if it's possible. If you want to blend it, you can do it blending. So now primary fermentation is the key to success according to me. If we improve primary fermentation to its theoretical efficiency by efficiency, you will be able to almost double the final product. Because you see the recipe is not fully utilized. Whatever that is fermentable, there are a large number of sugars. Fructose is there, glucose is there, other small hexoses are there. They are there, plus esters are there, aliphatic compounds are there, various types of small molecular weight compounds are there, esters are there, and they are to be bioconverted into only one single component, that is C2H5OH. By keeping all other isoamyl alcohol, isobutyl alcohol and other alcoholic components aside. So see, the key lies whether you transgenic yeast or whether you use a consortium of yeast or whether you use the cererolytic or any type of other bacteria, pectinolytic bacteria, or you just do one, two-step or three-step process. Like cashew is mostly pectin. There is little cellulose in there. Look at the approximate composition of a cashew apple which these people are fermenting. And you have to think from biotechnological and biochemical angle, purely from the angle of fermentation technology. Tell me now, how we can improve this primary fermentation process? Traditionally, you know how they do it. Cold me inside. Cold me, the whole dirty looking musk is just sitting there. Nobody inoculates it with anything. So from there you tell me, the consortium of fermenting microorganism comes in that musk. Does it come from the soil and the cement? Does it come from air, an ambient environment? Does it come from the legs of this, that handsome, beautiful, that worker? From where it comes? What is causing that fermentation? Please explain. Don't sit like those distillers. Now, what is the source? What is your guess? What type of species could be there? Tell, acetic acid bacteria will be there. What type of species will be there? Methanogens will be there. Fungi will be there. Yeast will be there. What type of microflora would be associated with Goa's cashew apples? Yeah, but think more on that. Basically, you are all talking about wild microflora, but go deeper into it. Are you talking about epiphytic microflora? Are you talking about endophytic microflora?
Both.
Yeah, so go further and now try to imagine a situation where you can write the formula. Suppose you take all 3000 samples and do general and differential isolation, and then prepare for all 3000 samples a detailed checklist. You also subject that for metagenomic analysis. Use RT-PCR, use PCR, you do RAPD. Can you do all this source of your musk? Is it possible to identify total microbial diversity in that? Are there techniques, metagenomic and other techniques? RAPD you can do with that. There will be DNA definitely. You can't say that there will be a population of DNA will be there. We have to run that metagenome. You can write to CCM and tell them that not go, south go. Through DSP we can say that once we get the total microbial diversity of fermenting and non-fermenting microorganisms, including yeast, bacteria, echinobacteria, etc., in all varieties of cashew which are being harvested and which are being processed in the state of Goa, we will get a complete and clear idea about which are the microbial agents principally accounting for the fermentation which gives you the final alcoholic product. So, suggest you want all these checklists. Okay, we come out, we do a thought experiment, we come out with 769 microorganisms. You know, black gram you make. From woody, what we make? I'll give you an example. Black gram of woody. What you can make with that black gram if you make a flour of woody? How many items you can make? No sir, we are eating in canteen, don't ask us. What is it? We have to ask the waiter of it. Now as a student of microbiology, you take that wheat dal, wheat flour, black gram, and you plate it out. Say on nutrient agar and you plate it out on differential media. Recurrence agar you try, oatmeal agar you try, malt acid agar you try, all sorts of that media which will give you total that viable count. So basically we capture total microbial diversity. Published papers say that there are 68 species of microorganisms in any given departmental store flour. If you are starting your fermentation with 64 microbial species, can you write the sequence of fermentation? Because the final goal of producing a good dosa or idli is the capacity of the consortium, natural wild microbial consortium which is there in your flour, which you allow to ferment at room temperature, and only those who are ignorant about the basic fermentation will keep the dough inside the refrigerator and try to think of getting a good idli or dosa. Next day you will have to break it with a hammer to eat it. It will be very hard.